After retiring early in 2018 and leaving the U.S., we'd spent the last 7 years living in Mexico and now in Portugal. We traded in the familiar for something completely new, and along the way, we've learned a lot. And wow, we have gotten a lot of questions from you guys about which country is better for retirement, Mexico or Portugal. Honestly, the answer isn't simple because both are incredible. It totally depends on you, your dreams, your budget, and the kind of life you want to build overseas.
In this video, we'll break down a few key differences between living in Mexico and Portugal, the pros, the cons, and everything in between, to help you decide which one might be the right fit for your next chapter. We've loved both countries, but choosing the right one for you can make all the difference. So let's dive in and help you get one step closer to a decision if you're thinking of moving to either one. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're discussing two countries to live outside the USA that consistently make the top rankings, Portugal and Mexico.
We know there are many more differences, pros and cons for each of these countries, but we're going to focus on the 12 important categories to consider when making an international move. We'll share our experiences and which country we prefer in each of the categories. So, let's begin.
Affordability is huge for Mexico. It's definitely something to talk about. Consistently lower cost of living compared to the U.S., housing, food, healthcare, fun stuff, it all costs less. Many senior citizens live there comfortably on Social Security alone. What does your money get you in Mexico versus Portugal? Let's use a simple example that takes a chunk of everyone's budget. Rent. Considering the houses we rented in both Guadalajara and Lisbon, we used to pay $1,000 a month for a remodeled, fully furnished, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a yard and an outdoor kitchen in Guadalajara near downtown. We found a very similar remodeled home, fully furnished, also with a yard near downtown Lisbon when we moved in 2021, and it was 1,600 euros per month, a price that has since increased to 2,000 euros a month. You could afford extras in Mexico, like dining out more often, hiring help, and travel. Mexico was definitely a soft start of our early retirement. We learned our true necessities for a comfortable home and day-to-day living.
Cost of living is a growing concern for everyone around the world. Lisbon is no longer the bargain it perhaps once was, especially for housing. Rising home prices, the impact of tourism, Lisbon, Porto, the Algarve, all the popular spots are getting more expensive. Portugal used to have the famous NHR, the non-habitual resident tax scheme that allow you to pay less taxes the first 10 years as a new tax resident. It was a great benefit that we both were lucky to have been approved for before its closure in 2024. It definitely changes the financial calculation for some potential retirees.
To us, Mexico was absolutely the most affordable option to begin early retirement and live a comfortable life.
Quality of life is an important subject for retirees looking to live abroad. A huge part of that quality of life for us is safety. In 2024, Portugal ranked 7th in the Global Peace Index, while Mexico ranked 136th. Funny enough, the U.S.A. came in close to Mexico at 132nd. The type of safety concern is different between the two countries. In Portugal, the main worry is petty theft and pickpocketing, scammers selling you fake drugs, or old ladies fighting for a seat on the bus. In Mexico, there are burglaries, police corruption, bribery, and in certain areas, some cartel activity.
We experienced a house burglary the very first month of our arrival in Guadalajara. It was a furnished, remodeled home without any security system, and the crooks broke in while we were staying at a nearby Airbnb. We learned our lesson quickly And after securing the home properly, we had no other safety issues at all for the following 3 years. You just learn not to get involved in bad situations and have the awareness of what is happening around you, just like in any other country. We have a lot of good information in our Guadalajara video that you can check out after this one. Mexico has an issue with their police being underpaid, and some can be corrupt and bribe-driven. Many tourists pay cops mordidas in fear of being put in jail. We never experienced bribes or got shaken down in Mexico.
Oh, I did, way back in the 1900s, when I used to party in Tijuana with a bunch of Marines. We had to bribe our way out of there.
In Portugal, safety is at another level. We walk the streets day or night and feel very safe. The police are around, not very busy, but they are around looking good. And we really mean that. They are a very attractive police force that stay in great shape. In this category, especially based on our burglary experience in Guadalajara, we'll have to give it to Portugal. We personally prefer living in or near a large city. Our choice in Mexico was the city of Guadalajara, the second largest city after Mexico City. You can get a taste of both in Guadalajara, from dated amenities to modern infrastructure. It's just shy of 500 years old, so homes are naturally newer built compared to the homes in Portugal. There are villas, apartments, houses, condos, gated communities, and beachfront properties all throughout Mexico. You can build anything you want. We liked both the modern style houses and the traditional homes. We were lucky to stay in both types during our time there. Many houses have hidden backyards with lots of natural green spaces that were great for the dogs. We absolutely love the variety of trees, the exotic plants, and all the colorful flowers in the middle of the city. We miss the local neighborhood services like the bread man or the fruit truck delivering fresh fruits and warm bread right to your door.
In Lisbon and many other parts of Portugal, homes are older. They were built to keep the heat out, but not the cold. Homes are built with cement and hollow bricks. High humidity, especially in the winter, causes mold to accumulate inside homes, making them damp and cold. Dehumidifiers are common in Portugal and essential to keep warm in the winter and avoid mold.
It does affect my asthma, but my allergies are far less affected than when we lived in our home state of Virginia. There's also a lot of new construction in multiple parts of Portugal. Older homes in the capital of Lisbon and surrounding areas are being remodeled at a fast pace. Our neighborhood in Ajuda, just 12 minutes from downtown Lisbon, is considered one of the oldest neighborhoods. Yet it has recently been getting a full facelift.
And some funny nuances in the homes that are different from the U.S.A. Dishwashers are not common in Mexico, but housekeepers are. It's typical to have small rooms for the maids inside the homes.
And dryers are not typical in Portugal, but bidets and bathtubs are.
And both Portugal and Mexico generally have smaller refrigerators because people shop at the local markets for fresh daily goods rather than buying in large bulk like in the U.S.
Neither country has central AC either. Mini splits and window units are the norm.
In this category, they're kind of even. But we're going to go with Mexico on this one because we like the way the houses are built better than in Portugal. And there are less restrictions if we ever wanted to build.
Both tourism and the U.S. dollar inject massive amounts of foreign currency into Mexico's economy that boosts employment and supports small businesses, especially in service-based industries like hospitality, food, transport, and real estate. In 2023, international visitors brought in over $30 billion in revenue, a record high, with U.S. tourists being the top spenders. Along with tourists, there are many established expat communities in Mexico. Places like Ajijic and Lake Chapala, home to the largest U.S. retiree community outside of the United States, with about 10,000 full-time expats. San Miguel de Allende, Mexico City, Querétaro, Cancun, and Mazatlan also have large, thriving expat populations. It always makes the transition easier to mingle with fellow English speakers living abroad.
And you can find familiar stores like Walmart and Costco.
The Portuguese, on the other hand, continue to struggle with government programs implemented to bring in foreigners to invest in the country, which has caused many repercussions and animosity from some locals. Lisbon, being a popular port city and the gateway to Europe, has a massive influx of tourists and foreign residents, mainly coming from China and Brazil, who took advantage of the Golden Visa since its inception in 2012, buying their way into Portuguese residency and citizenship via real estate investment. Unlike Mexico, the American demographic in Portugal is very small. We don't even make it into the top 10. Brazil, Angola, Cape Verde, UK, and India make the top 5 demographics. House prices have soared in recent years, and the Portuguese have found themselves unable to afford to live in their own cities. The young population is being pushed out as salaries are low and prices are rising. It's unfortunate, but many are choosing to move away from Portugal for a more affordable life.
There are measures in place to alleviate the higher real estate prices, like regulating short-term rentals and reform and investment programs. No real improvements have been felt yet. Experts predict that the crisis may even worsen in 2025, with prices stabilizing at the high levels rather than decreasing. We haven't felt any friction from locals. Expat communities throughout Portugal are welcome, and there are many Facebook groups, meetups, and events that include both foreigners and Portuguese. I think being accepted by both countries equally has been our experience, and we gladly choose both.
Infrastructure in Mexico is a downside compared to, say, the U.S. or Portugal. Basic utilities can be unreliable. Power outages, especially during the rainy season, are pretty common, and loss of internet can happen often. It really depends on the specific neighborhood. You might reach high speeds on one street and slow and intermittent on the next. Sidewalks can be uneven or just non-existent. Low water pressure happens, and potable water is not possible in almost all parts of Mexico. You buy your garrafon of water to be delivered every week. Also, you can't flush toilet paper in some establishments and houses. That's because of small and old plumbing pipes. All little things that add up.
Driving in Mexico can also be an adventure. The main thing is topes. These giant speed bumps that can appear out of nowhere and really damage your car if you hit them too fast. And potholes, you'll find them on just about every other street. Road rules are sometimes treated as suggestions. Mexican drivers are aggressive. We had a car in Mexico. I chose to drive slow and avoid the stress. I didn't want to get involved in the ruckus. And I highly recommend driving during the day, especially on highways between cities, as cows can be found roaming in the dark roads at night. Banking is old school in Mexico. It's often required to open an account in person, and it can take days. Cash is still king in many places. Lots of small establishments in both Mexico and Portugal still accept cash only. What used to get on my nerves in Mexico, local owners wanted to be paid in cash, but they always tell you they don't have change, and they will make you find change yourself, or you had to leave this imposed tip if you didn't want to deal with it.
Now in Portugal, road infrastructure is outstanding all around. Driving is easier, but locals here like to drive fast. Freeways are in great condition and well lit at night. It used to get costly driving through the interior of Portugal due to the toll roads. Fortunately, tolls have been lifted on many of its highways, marking the end of a policy that had been in place for over 14 years. Portugal has a relatively well-established and functional transport system too. Buses and trains get to you, sometimes late, but they get to you, compared to Mexico, where sometimes they never show up. Uber was super cheap, and it was our second choice to move around besides the car. Luckily, Ubers are also inexpensive in Portugal, and sometimes even less money than the bus for 2 people.
The passenger train system in Mexico is very limited, and while it is great within Portugal, it doesn't connect to the rest of Europe's train network. So not so quiet as integrated. The overnight train from Lisbon to Madrid supposedly was returning in 2025, but there are no signs of it yet. We're not surprised, but if you enjoy 10-hour overnight train trips, it may be there someday. And if you prefer flying, traveling within Mexico is very affordable. Not so much when you're flying international though, especially from Guadalajara, as we almost always had to connect via Mexico City. Flights from Portugal throughout Europe are easy and also affordable. Many tickets to major cities in Europe like Paris, Rome, and Madrid are under €150 round trip.
In terms of infrastructure, potable water, and public transport, Portugal is the clear choice for us. Generally, the Portuguese are polite and friendly, maybe a little reserved at first, but most kind once they open up. They are very family-oriented, proud, and passionate about what they believe in. Sometimes they may be wrong and not admit it, especially in giving wrong directions, or why they park anywhere they please. Portugal also has a large elderly community. Respect for the elders is highly valued, and a slow yet active pace of life is the secret to their longevity. Mexico's nature and culture are huge draws. It's incredibly diverse. Geographically, beaches, mountains, jungles, deserts, waterfalls, hot springs, it's got stunning biodiversity. Mexican culture is strong and proud. They also have a very deep sense of family and community. We've made friends for life in Guadalajara. One of our first weekends when we arrived, the Airbnb owner invited us over for her daughter's birthday with a piñata and mariachis until the wee hours of the night.
And as beautiful and cultural as both countries are, they do have their nuances. Noise could be a potential problem for many in Mexico. It is a very passionate country that enjoys loud fireworks, music, and celebrations, especially near town centers and during festivals. We loved and missed the Via Recreativa, an open streets initiative that transforms urban roads into car-free zones for cycling, walking, and skating on Sunday mornings. It's unfortunate that Portugal doesn't have anything like that. Che used to love riding in his car. Oh, and punctuality, it's non-existent in both countries, and businesses can close at any time for any reason.
This next part is an interesting cultural subject that happened to us. Well, more to me. In more conservative or rural regions and older neighborhoods of Portugal, traditional gender roles may still linger. It wasn't long ago in Portugal that women were expected to prioritize domestic roles, being homemakers, mothers, and caretakers.
I remember the day that we went to our neighborhood mom-and-pop restaurants in Ajuda to have the meal of the day. It was Diane's opportunity to practice some Portuguese. So when the older gentleman, the owner, approached our table, she went ahead and in pretty good Portuguese, I said, told him what she wanted. The man looked at her, then turned to me and asked me what we wanted, completely ignoring what Diane had just said to him. I told him the same exact thing she said, and he walked away with the order. He did it a couple of times. It seemed almost inadvertently natural, something that you don't see every day.
We also have an expat friend who just opened a bar in downtown Lisbon. She's a single female, and during contract and permit negotiations, she would often be questioned on the whereabouts of her husband or father to speak for her. They would be surprised when she'd tell them that she needed no man to do this. She's happy and thriving at her new bar in Lisbon, and make sure you check it out when you visit. It's called the Bayou, and it has the best hurricanes in town. You'll find some of these old-school gender dynamics in both countries, to be honest. In Mexico, traditional machismo is also part of the cultural fabric. A local woman at a rodeo once told us, in Mexico, women have to look good for their men, even if it means wearing stilettos on these broken streets. We definitely notice the occasional catcalling or whistles from men when walking around certain areas of Mexico. But here's the good news. Both countries are evolving. In Portugal, the older gender norms are fading, especially in the urban parts of the country. There's a growing cultural shift toward gender equality, and people are generally very respectful and supportive. In Mexico, the pushback against machismo is also gaining ground, particularly among younger generations and the middle class. Gender roles are being challenged more vocally, and many women are leading the way in business, politics, and social change.
For animal lovers, it can be difficult to see dogs in Mexico cities being kept outside as guard animals or wandering strays in the small pueblos. Unfortunately, Portugal isn't much better. Mistreatment on dogs outside the cities have been reported on many occasions.
When we lived in Guadalajara, you didn't typically see strays in the city. But when you do, well, sometimes you just end up keeping them, like we did with our sweet buddy.
Last but not least in this culture segment is the language barrier. This is old news. European Portuguese is harder language to learn than Spanish. If you learn Spanish first, you'll find many similarities in reading and pronouncing sentences. However, it's hard to understand Portuguese when they speak it. They're known for swallowing or muting the vowels. It does get easier over time, the more you practice and hear it. We just finished our A1, A2 level Portuguese class, and it really helped. But we have to stay on top of it, or we'll forget it, especially as we age.
Both Mexico and Portugal have their unique and traditional standards. It's best to learn and understand them. Getting immersed in the local community by at least learning the basics of the language will take you far. One is really not better than the other. All countries have their cultural nuances. There's really no preference to vote on in this category. This is the subject that many American foreigners dread, and you should, because it is real in both Portugal and Mexico. When we talk about bureaucracy, they are mutually terrible. Long hours waiting, communication mishaps, epic mistakes, and simple incompetence is just scratching the surface. We've been victims of both systems and by some of the professionals who will claim to help you, yet they make the worst mistakes. The veterinarian in Mexico made a huge mistake on the date that would have kept our dogs in Mexico if we didn't catch it on time. She apologized, but acted like it really wasn't a big deal.
Even big chain companies like Home Depot make these mistakes. It took me 3 months to process a simple and straightforward refund with all the proper paperwork. Yet we never received the $300 refund. And forget about opening or closing a bank account in Mexico. It took us a week and multiple in-person appointments to simply close an account with almost no funds in it. In Portugal, at least there's the Libro de Reclamações, or the complaint book. We heard companies adhere well to it. We only used it once against TAP Airlines for overcharging luggage and refusing to refund us. But all messages went unanswered, and the case remains open 2 years later.
Time is not of the essence in either Mexico or Portugal. You learn to be patient to make it bearable. It's unfortunate, but both countries suffer the same pain and deserve no vote of ours. Healthcare in Mexico is one of the best that we've ever experienced. It is very affordable, and many doctors, especially in areas popular with expats, were trained in the U.S. and often speak English. The costs are almost unbelievable coming from the U.S. system, and prescriptions are a fraction of the price. Many expats, including ourselves, self-insure and pay out of pocket as individual costs are so low. Our son got his LASIK surgery in Guadalajara for $800 for both eyes, and he is a happy camper now. Assisted living facilities are highly rated in Mexico and much more affordable than the United States. Something for us to keep in mind later when we're much older.
Healthcare is a big plus in Portugal too. As a legal resident, you get access to the public healthcare system. Free public healthcare access is huge, and if you prefer private healthcare, it's also available and much better price compared to the U.S. The doctors are great, but proactive care isn't as common as we were used to in the U.S. They don't just prescribe preventive medicine. There's no take this and see approach. Doctors tend to be more relaxed, and they usually wait until there's something clearly going on before stepping in.
Staying healthy is a top priority for us, and having the peace of mind that we'll be well cared for as we age in either country is truly priceless. Let's just say we won't go broke if a medical emergency comes up. Although both countries have great healthcare, we'll have to give this one to Mexico. The private medical facilities were all top-notch, and our doctors really spent a lot of time listening and getting to know us and understanding our medical backgrounds. We really appreciated that. When discussing the climate in Portugal and Mexico, they both have their great perks and challenges. Guadalajara's weather is perfect most of the year. The city stays fresh and cool under all the foliage and large parks. And the best part? There's no humidity. It's dry and breezy with cooler temperatures because of its altitude. The coastal towns like Puerto Vallarta, Playa del Carmen, and Mazatlan can get super humid and unbearable in the summer. Mexico City's weather is pleasant for much of the year. The high altitude also means an often less oppressive heat. We visited in June, and the weather was just perfect. You can watch our Mexico City video after this one. It's one of our favorite cities in the world.
One thing to be aware of is elevated levels of pollution in Mexico. Air quality in Guadalajara was caused by yearly forest fires that will cover the city in thin ash for days. Definitely not good for your asthma. Mexico City's emissions from factories and industrial processes also contribute to harmful gases, and car emissions continue to be a primary source of pollutants. A lot of car programs like Hoy No Circula reduce daily car traffic and emissions on specific days of the week. Not sure if it works well though, since we heard many people living in Mexico City own multiple cars, so they can still drive every day of the week.
After spending more than 3 years in Lisbon, we can tell you there have not been 300 days of the famous sunshine. Climate has changed. There's been more rainy days, bigger storms, and heavy humidity in the winters. It does affect me with allergies, asthma, and the winter blues are for real. I hate the short, dark days in January. The houses get really cold in the winter too, and dehumidifiers are essential to keep the air dry. Northern places like Porto or Braga can be quite a bit rainier for many months of the year. The beaches, the Algarve, obviously, but also places like Nazaré with those massive waves, or the Alentejo coast, all have stunning coastlines. Definitely diverse. Fair warning though, that Atlantic water is bracing, not exactly bathtub temperature.
And let's talk more about beaches, and not the typical fun beach talk, but particularly noise levels at the beach. Mexican coastal towns are known for crazy loud music, vendors at most public beaches. Portugal's beaches are the complete opposite. They are clean, beautiful, and quiet. Everyone enjoys the peace and sounds of the ocean. This is the actual sound of a beach in Costa de Caparica. That's a huge plus for us.
In the climate category, we'll have to go with Mexico, with no humidity in the winter and especially the warmer water temperature at the beaches. Many retirees find Mexico as the perfect retirement haven since it's so close to the United States. A lot of expats have families a short flight away. Portugal is across the pond, minimum 6-hour flight. And don't forget the time zone. Mexico's time is similar to the U.S., while Portugal's time difference is 5 to 8 hours. If you happen to be working remotely and your clientele is based in the U.S., you'll be working odd hours.
Mexico definitely takes this category for our fellow North Americans, and for our viewers from the European continent, Portugal is a plus for you. Let's make this clear. We do love Portuguese and Mexican foods. The flavors and style of cooking are very different, and both are delicious. Our standard of tacos and tequila is so high because we experience the best where we live. Guadalajara had Los Salteños, the best tacos ever. And could you believe there's a town called Tequila? Yep, it's my favorite. Tequila is the elixir of life in Mexico. Now, there's only so much Mexican food that your body can consume. The one thing we felt that Guadalajara lacked was the variety of international food scene. There are many American chain restaurants, but not many international options. The majority were fused with Mexican ingredients.
Portuguese and Mediterranean dishes dominate the food scene in Portugal. But there is a lot more of an international variety to choose from here. We enjoy good sushi, Korean, Indian, Brazilian, Iranian, and Japanese cuisines in Lisbon. There's always something new opening up around the corner.
And the risk of Montezuma's revenge in Mexico is real. Food hygiene needs attention there. We've gotten sick to our stomach many times, and believe us, it is painful. You must be careful, especially with street food, and you absolutely cannot drink the tap water. For this reason, we give this one to Portugal.
What about the practicalities like residency? It's quite straightforward. First off, Mexico has a generous 180-day tourist visa, and getting temporary or permanent residency is relatively easy compared to other countries. And what if you're thinking long-term like citizenship? You can qualify in both Portugal and Mexico after 5 years of legal residency. They both take 1 to 2 years to obtain after applying, though. And most importantly, both countries allow dual citizenship, so you likely would not have to give up your original passport. That's a big deal for many.
Based on our experience in processing residency permits in both countries on our own, we found Mexico's easier, faster, and less demanding process. There is a large difference in the income requirements. For this reason, we'll give this one also to Portugal.
And there you have it. There's no single better one really, is there? It's entirely subjective. It boils down to what you value most, what your budget looks like, and what kind of challenges you're willing to go through.
But there's one thing. You can't decide from videos and blogs alone. If you're serious about moving abroad, visit both countries, spend real time there, talk to the locals, see how it feels to live day to day. That kind of boots on the ground experience is essential before making such a life-changing move.
We hope this side-by-side look helped you decide if Portugal or Mexico is in your retirement radar. Both offer incredible opportunities, just in very different packages. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And for more about Mexico and Portugal living, check out these videos next. See you in the next one.